The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. Today we are going to talk about focusing on the good, but first we're going to start with the quirky tip of the day. All right, our quirky tip of the day is listen to your dogs, you guys. Chrissy, our producer, was telling us before this podcast that her dog Murphy, who is super intuitive and he's just like very in touch with every human that he's ever come in contact with, was really responsive to her friend the other day. And it turned out that she had low blood sugar and, you know, he was responding to that and he was on it like white on rice. So if your dogs are acting a little bit funny, maybe take that more than just like, hey, go away, stop, don't bother me. Dogs can alert to blood sugar, blood pressure, heart stuff, all kinds of different things, seizures that are coming on. So be careful that you do not just brush your dogs off, because they typically are able to tell you, they're able to foretell a health issue sometimes way before you even know that it's starting to circle around. All right, so focusing on the good. First and foremost, Scott is wearing this awesome shirt. This is a short Cold that his son did the movie poster for, and they made it into some shirts. This was one of his Father's Day gifts. This will be out in 6 to 8 months. We'll keep you guys posted. His son Nicholas is an amazing artist. We had to showcase him here today.
He's doing editing and producing.
Yeah, he's doing the whole thing.
Films.
He does some podcasts. He's a badass. He's done our sponsor promo video for the Quirky Dog. He's great at what he does, but he's an amazing artist, and he drew this design. So I guess this came to be because sometimes you can encounter people, especially that, you know, are always kind of finding the negative of a situation and everything else. But it also happens with how you think about your dogs, with how you react to things that happen with your dogs, whether they be health issues or behavior issues or anything else. It's very easy to get into a negative spiral, but it's not going to be the best for your psyche or for your dog's long-term well-being either.
No, especially in training, and you know, we're dog trainers, so I always, that's something that it's great to have a partner when you train, and a lot of people that we know that are trainers that are involved in competitive dog sports, whether it's agility or nose work or protection sports, quite often go to a club or they have a partner, someone that they get together with, that they enjoy, that they train with. And the nice thing about having someone there to have eyes on you is, for me, it was good because if I got a little frustrated with a behavior, having trouble, my dog's having trouble with this or that, it was nice to have an outside voice of reason to say, hey, you know, hang on, let's take a look at this. What's going well? And let's back up. Let's put the dog away. Let's just take a little break and, you know, keep it as positive as possible so that the dog can have a good experience and so that you can have a good experience, because we all get involved in dog training for fun. We don't get involved with dog training to be frustrated and pissed off, but it can be a humbling experience because dogs are challenging and they don't always do what we think they should be doing when we want them to be doing it. You know, they have minds of their own and sometimes they're just not feeling it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, that's the challenge. That's what really makes it so much fun. And that's what is so exciting about seeing someone that does so well with their dogs, because you know they're having the same challenges as everybody else, but they navigate those challenges successfully, you know, over and over again, and wind up with these really, really happy, animated dogs that are flashy and look good.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
even outside of a competitive perspective, I would say it's not that frequent, but we maybe have 5% of our clientele that no matter how good their dog gets, they're always focusing on that, you know, 5% that still needs to improve. You know, maybe the dog was pulling like crazy at first. Now they have wonderful loose leash walking. They almost are completely off leash. The barking's gotten way better. And, you know, they'll say something like, well, he won't hold a downstay or something. Like, they're just focusing on that one part that still isn't there. But you need to focus on how much progress you've made and how well your dog is doing and how much good there is, because it is so much better for you and your dog. I just can't stress that enough. And it's something that when you start to get into these, negative cycles and everything else and spirals, it's just contagious. And people don't like that energy. They don't want to feel that energy. They don't want to be around all of that. And your dog doesn't want to be around it either. It's not fun for them either.
No, and it is nice when you have, especially when you've, hired a dog trainer for very specific reasons. And then all of a sudden those specific issues get resolved really quick. Because quite often, then everybody wants more. But, the dog pulled. The dog doesn't pull anymore, but the dog doesn't get in the car. The dog doesn't do this. The dog is noisy in the crate. And they keep on bringing up all the negative. And I have to, and that's what's nice about if you get them to, let's just do a review. Why did you come in the first place? Okay, so that's handled. So everything else is gravy at this point.
Yeah.
We've taken care of the biggest issue in the beginning. It was like a 10 out of 10 for negative stuff. That's all handled,
Yeah.
So
changing your perspective matters.
Be grateful, be positive, and know that the dogs are they're their own beings. They want to do what they want to do,
and they're here to keep us humble. Oh my gosh! So I guess as far as the behavior stuff goes, that's kind of where we're coming from with that. The health stuff is also something that I want to touch on. I mean, our dog Jimmy, this September, it's going to be a full year since he had his first TPLO. Jimmy had 2 back-to-back TPLOs. He was totally out of commission for pretty much 8 months. I mean, he leash walked and I rehabbed him and everything else, but he spent a lot of time in a crate and everything else. And he's older. He just turned 12. So, he doesn't have 10 years left. This was a lot of his year to be out of commission. And we just kept focusing on the good things. What can we do? Okay, we can cuddle with him on the couch. He can go outside with Scott and he can have a cigar. We can, do short little spurts of rehab. He can have a farmhound. He can sleep in bed with us. And focusing on the fact that, yes, great, he's still healthy. His blood work still looks good. Yes, these leg things sucked and it was hard on him and hard on us and hard on our wallet. But what good was there? And I think that was kind of how we saw that whole journey, and it helped him to do well. And it certainly helped our headspace too, because it was very easy to get into this fear state of oh my God, we spent all this money. What if he can never walk normal again? Da, 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 da. And I think the perspective in those kind of situations matters greatly.
Yeah, and I didn't have high expectations with the surgery. I just wanted him to be able to walk on all 4 legs. I mean, that was all I wanted, because he was back end, all hiked up, hopping along. And it was very expensive, and I wasn't looking for a miracle. I just wanted him to be able to walk across the yard, go out to go potty, walk around with me. Wasn't even worried about him running or any of that stuff. And now he actually looks better than I ever thought he would look. I mean, he's able to go out. He can retrieve a ball. He can run around. We keep it, under control, because we don't want him to be sore and come up lame. And the main reason now is just he needs more muscle conditioning. That's all, but structurally he's doing really well.
Yeah, no, it was best case outcome. And, with this health stuff, I have a very good client. Their dog just overnight appeared to have gone deaf. And I guess I look at deafness sometimes in dogs kind of differently. I've had many deaf dogs. We have a senior dog right now who's deaf. And
sometimes it's a blessing.
That's what I said, because they have the little kids in the house. I'm she might be happier. I was this might be the best thing that ever.
If you have a dog with territorial aggression that goes deaf, it's you come home, there's no noise.
You won the lottery. But for the dog too, if they're always hearing chaos and stuff and now it's quiet, imagine your house being quiet for you sometimes. But, a situation like this, and I get it, I'm not trying to take this lightly. I understand that it's a hard hit and it's hard to think of your dog being deaf. We're just very used to, I think the entire time we've been together, we've had a dog that is either losing hearing or completely deaf. So we're just very used to sign language and snapping and stomping on the floors for vibrations and everything else. But okay, so yes, the dog is deaf. This sucks. Luckily, it wasn't some genetic recessive thing that happened young, because I understand, a dog that's deaf its whole life is, more of a challenge, but you can work through that as well. Think of all the things that are still great. You have a senior dog with great muscle tone, with a great energy level, with great blood work, very healthy, otherwise presenting very healthy. Dogs can live for decades deaf that. Well, it's not a life sentence.
You have a dog that has managed to live into its senior years and is now having natural things break down. This is what happens. You go deaf, you get lame, you start having issues.
Yeah, Scott's starting to get into his senior year. See, it's almost like we're segueing into people.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to break super quick, and when we get back, we're going to talk more about focusing on the good.
Want to keep up with all the latest from the Quirky Dog podcast like me and Murphy here? then make sure you head on over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Or if you prefer to listen to the madness, go on over to iTunes or Spotify and follow the Quirky Dog Podcast. And hey, while you're there, leave a rating and review and let them know what you think of the show. Until then, keep it quirky.
All right, we're back. We're right on the 10-minute mark. That is good timing for being done with the commercial. And
that's really looking at the positive there.
Bada bing, bada boom. Oh, see, I made the mic crack because of my laugh. Another thing, and I don't mean to overstep here because I know that this is like a completely heartbreaking thing for a lot of people. But if you are getting a dog specifically for performance, right? You're getting a dog for, say, competitive obedience or agility or protection or something else, and that dog now has a career-ending injury. Or an injury that, would be unsafe for the dog to participate in these sports moving forward. That can be crushing. I totally get that, and grieve that out and experience that for what it is. And you've built this relationship and you've done this training and now that's been ripped away from you. But in those situations, also try to focus on the fact that you still have a great pet. You still have a hiking buddy. You still have a dog that can live next to you for, a decade plus. So a lot of times we just harp on the fact that, like, I lost my best teammate. This is the worst thing that could have happened. I finally had the dog of my dreams. And whatever it is, whatever type of injury it is, something happens, and that prevents you now from doing your sport of choice. You can get other dogs to do your sport with. And if you have a dog as a companion, that is number one priority. You guys, pets first all the time. And Scott and I pretty much have a house full of pets at this point, and we love dogs as pets. Like, we're so grateful that we just have dogs to hang out with and walk down the street with and walk in the woods with. And Scott goes through Dunkin' and, gets Jimmy munchkins. He's been on paleo for freaking months now, and he still goes to Dunkin' for Jimmy so he can have munchkins. Like, the pet situation can give you a lot of fulfillment as well. And I think sometimes when we're so in this competitive tunnel and so in this performance tunnel, it's hard to tweed those two things apart. So I did just want to touch on that.
And I will say also, without being as extreme as your dog has this injury where it cannot compete, the dog just may not be very good in the sport that you've chosen for this dog, and it doesn't mean you can't get out there and participate. You're just not going to be highly competitive with that particular dog. The dog doesn't know any different. This is all about the ego.
Yeah, focusing on
I wanted to be on the podium. I'm not going to make it with this dog because the dog just isn't fast. The dog doesn't cut to the right the way my last two dogs did. There's something up. I don't know what it is. We checked everything, and physically it's healthy. It's just not motivated, and whatever the reason. They're not all the same. Getting, the perfect dog is not even a reality. That's just in your mind. You make the best of the dog you have. And if just because your dog isn't, and it could be you too, it could be that you're not good enough to be on the podium at that time. You may have got on there once because all the other dogs were worse, but that doesn't mean that, it's the people that are on the podium consistently with many different dogs that is showing what they can do as a trainer. And even those people have dogs that are not as good as the best, but they still take a dog that's average and make the dog look great. And it's because they enjoy the training and they do the best they can with the dog they have.
And they focused on those dogs' strengths. They didn't harp on those dogs' weaknesses their whole life. And I do want to bring it a little bit just to people and relationships and life and everything too, because it matters, and how you act and how you feel and how grateful you are in your day-to-day does infiltrate into, your family and your relationship with your dog and everything else. And, we are so blessed to live in this great country. If you're listening in America and, wherever you are, we all have a lot of things to be grateful for, even when shit hits the fan and like life doesn't seem fair and you feel like you have, 2% left to give. There's always a lot to be grateful for, and being able to focus on the gratitude and focus on the good things and not get sucked into the news and the negativity of social media and all of that really has powerful and profound effects, not only on your own mindset, but on your relationship with your dog, on your journey with your dog, and everything else. These things matter greatly, and mindset is super important. And we talk about mindset a lot on this podcast, and it's something that we've focused on a lot the past few years, but it really does matter. And we're really good about even catching each other now and being like, all right, like, yeah, but that was negative. Like, let's move on from that. And, let's stop talking about that. Like, yeah, that was a bummer, but, you're not forgetting. You're not like separating it out from your life. You're still living in the moment of that, but you're trying to, again, focus on the good. And it will help your marriage. It will help your friendships. It will help your workplace environment. And it will even help your relationship with your dog. I can promise you that.
Yeah. And it's something that takes a conscious effort. I mean, when something happens negative to me or around me, or someone didn't act the way I thought they should act, I can think about that for a few hours.
Or days.
or day. I mean, rarely days now, but I can think about that longer than I need to, in not a constructive way, not that's going to help me be a better person or help my attitude be better. And I'm more conscious of that now. And, I was talking to my son about that stuff the other day. We had a cigar together, and he was talking about he thought these people should act this way, and they didn't. I said, yeah, people are going to do whatever they're going to do. Rarely does it have anything to do with you. People are just doing what they're going to do, and they may seem rude. You may take it personally, but most of the time it's not personal. Most of the time people are just caught up in their own world, and they're acting selfishly because they're self-absorbed. And that's just life, And if you're happy within yourself, it's much easier to let that stuff roll off your back and just keep moving forward and say, geez, hope you have a good day. Good to see you.
Yep,
and that's it. You're done.
Yeah, don't internalize it. Make it about you. And use these modalities, you guys. I think we're in a generation right now of let's heal from the generational trauma. Let's find tools that work. And, every person is different. Every situation is going to be different. But gardening is great for us. We love our vegetable garden. Scott's growing weed plants again this year. Getting in the dirt. It's supposed to be an antidepressant. It's a really good thing. Ice baths. If I don't have my ice bath, if I skip my ice bath over the week, I'll freak out. I can't even barely function as a person anymore. It's been life-changing from a mental health perspective. And as an aside, focusing on the good, my pinky got to dip for its first ice bath this past weekend. I'd spent 2 months of no pinky dipping, and I finally got to get the pinky in there too. Meditation, we love a little bit of quiet time. We have a bench in the woods for meditation. We have, meditation room in our house. Yoga, we do that all the time. Whatever works for you, but you need to find things that work, modalities that work, healing things that make you feel good. We love floating. I haven't been able to float because of my hand. Infrared saunas, whatever that is for you, find it, focus on it, and then repeat it, okay? Wash, rinse, repeat is a real thing when it comes to healing. Figure out what works, and then keep doing that and keep rehearsing that. And
doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. Sometimes for me, that requires a conscious effort. I like to go to the gym. I go to the gym almost every day. It's not something that requires any effort now. I'm just in a good routine, and I feel worse if I don't go, and I can't go every day. Life happens, things pop up, and that's okay. But I try to get there every day, and I always feel better after that. But then I have dogs to work. We have dogs at the house. We have dogs that need training. When I put a leash on a dog and get out and do some work, I feel better. I feel better because I know that's what I was supposed to be doing. That dog needs some work. I need to put some work into that dog. Yesterday, the sink was full of dishes. I cleaned all the dishes up, threw them in the dishwasher, and when Jess got home, she said, "Wow, thanks for doing all the dishes." And I said, "Yeah, I should be doing that every friggin' day." It's when I don't do the dishes, I feel like crap because Jess gets home and sees all these dishes, and I know I could have done all that stuff, and I didn't do it, and then she's doing it.
Yeah.
And it's those little things that when I do these things that I don't necessarily want to do, but I know that's the right thing to do, and I should be doing this stuff just because I have the time. It's in front of me. Do it. When
no matter what that is, no matter what that is. And I think those two things tweet apart. Moving your body is super important, whether it be at a gym or whether it just be leashing your dog up. If you have a yard, just walk a few laps in the yard with your dog.
Go pick up some dog poop.
Yeah, seriously. That'd be a good one after you did the dishes. That'd be a good next one if we're going to be talking about
These are the little things, It's I go out there, I see the poop, I go back in the house. Do I feel better? No.
Okay. This isn't a Scott chores podcast, although maybe we should have that conversation publicly. But no, you guys, it really matters and it really changes everything. And I think sometimes when we don't see a lot of people on a regular basis anymore. Chrissy's one of the most regular people we see. She has a similar mission with the positivity and everything else. When we are around people who have notoriously been negative and we haven't been around that for a while, we just automatically are oh my gosh, We don't want to be like that.
Enough of that for a bit.
We need to focus on the good. So whatever that means for you, start finding the good. Start focusing on the good. Start getting your circle to be more similar in how they focus on the good. Write down what you're grateful for. Write down what your dog's good at. Write down all the great things about your dog and all the great things about your training journey together, because it matters. If you're always just harping on what isn't there, it's going to leave you with a dissatisfaction, and it isn't fair to your dog. These dogs are giving us so much physically, mentally, emotionally. They're giving us their freaking best. So we deserve for them, and we owe it to them to say like, hey, you're the best, and thanks for making my life great.
Yeah, just providing them a decent quality life. And yeah, I say this to my clients all the time. You know, they're quite often they're overdoing it with the enrichment side of it. They're trying to appease their dog and make their dog happy through just constant games and fluffy pillows and expensive treats and all this stuff, but they're not really working with their dog. And, you know, I don't know. I tell people, you know, the American dog has it better than 3/4 of the population of the earth.
Yeah.
Most people on the planet are getting up and walking a mile or two for water and bringing it back on the top of their head. Yeah. Trying to get some dirty water to clean their baby.
Their baseline is better than most. So focus on the fact that you have been giving them a roof to lay under, good, healthy food, water, clean water, all of these things. Focus on the good. Find the good. It's super important. It's helped us tremendously. We think it'll help you as well. Thank you so much for joining us here this week. If you need us for any reason and you ever want to work with us in person, we work from Portland, Maine to Manchester, New Hampshire to Boston, Massachusetts. You can reach us at studio@thequirkydog.com. We want you guys and your dogs to be focusing on the good. It matters. It's life-changing. And in the meantime, keep it quirky. Bye, guys.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.